What's a belief or maybe a behavior that you had, let's say 10 or 15 years ago, that you now see as misguided?
Uh, Not committing.
Not committing. Interesting. Tell me more, but say more about that.
So, I mean, I define commitment as the elimination of alternatives, which was I had the misconception that I will work on multiple things and see which one works, when in the reality, any of them would have worked if I had worked on it. And so I would just never get past the point of critical mass. And so the easiest analogy I have for this is imagine you want to start a party, right? It's very hard to start a good party. Like you have to invite a lot of people, you have to prepare, you have to do all this stuff. But if you are successful enough and get enough people to the party can eventually take off on its own and kind of become its own thing. Now, to the same degree, imagine you try to start 4 parties on the same night at the same time. It's almost impossible
I
because
see.
you only have the same resource. You have the same number of people, you have the same amount of money. It's very, very hard to do that. And so this is what I see the vast majority of smaller entrepreneurs doing, is that they're trying to start 4 parties and say, well, whatever party takes off is the one that I'm gonna invest more in. But none of them will take off. And that's why in the beginning it feels very manual, very like push. You're like, I promise the party's gonna be great. It's gonna
Hmm.
be awesome. But who else is coming? No,
No,
no
yeah.
one, right? But if you just put all, if you're like, I'll be there, I'm not doing anything else. This is all I'm going to be doing is trying to make sure this party's amazing. The likelihood that party one is good and then two gets good enough that you don't have to push to keep growing it is good. It's just kind of a microcosm for a business, just on a much shrunken time scale. But I think for that reason, that is probably the number one reason that people don't get what they want, is because they spread themselves too thin. You have such limited resources in the beginning. It's like, I think this is the piece that people misunderstand. Like, you have functionally no money. If you're an individual, you have basically no money when it comes to a corporate scale, right? You have almost no money and you have almost no time. Again, compared to 100 people,
Right.
you have no money, no time. And so you have such limited resources that the actual skill that's missing is strategy. And so strategy is prioritization of resources. So said simply, like, what do we do? And more importantly, what do we not do
Hmm.
with the few things that we can do, out of the few things that we can do? And so just being able to just say, you know what, all 4 of these parties could be good. It could be a pirates theme, it could be a Greek theme, it could be a whatever theme, but I'm just going to try and make this pirate theme one good. That's all I'm going to do. And the thing is that we then think, oh well, this succeeded because it was a pirate theme. No, it just succeeded because that was the one that you worked on. So as
Hmm.
long as fundamentally, like, you let people know about your stuff, you have a conversion mechanism, and the thing that you sell costs significantly less than the thing you sell at the price you sell it for,
Hmm.
you'll probably be okay. But people just spend forever trying to figure out which party theme is going to be the best theme. And you just don't need to do that, because as soon as you pick, you eliminate the alternatives, you commit, and then you're good to go.
How did you figure out that that was the problem that was keeping you from success? Or did something just eventually take off through sheer brute force and you realized that you wasted your time on the other initiatives?
No, nothing took off.
Yeah, I see.
And people may be surprised by this, but I was probably making a few $1 million a year, not income, revenue, between like 9 different businesses.
Oh, oof. That
And I was,
stresses me out just thinking
right,
about
I
it.
was 20,
Yeah.
26
Yeah,
at the time.
that's
And I like to tell
brutal.
people, I have 9 businesses, but like, that's because I thought that's what successful entrepreneurs did. When in reality, it's like, no, you make one business extremely successful and then you just make investments and you don't spend your time. You can only be CEO of one thing. And so I was CEO of 9 businesses and I almost died. Got DUI, head on collision, whole thing.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And then I had somebody, thankfully say, hey, you were spread too thin. The stress will kill you, quite literally, and you need to make decisions. The difficulty was, for me, I was the rainmaker in all the businesses. And so I basically was just killing myself to generate income for all of them. And almost nothing was left over every month because I had to pay people to do everything else, because that was the only thing that I was doing. And so Layla obviously came into my life, not obviously, but Layla came into my life. And she said, hey, genius, wouldn't it be cool if there's this one thing that you do that seems to work better than the others, but we haven't given it a chance
Right.
because you're only giving 2 hours a week to it.
Yeah.
What if you spent all your time on that? And so I thought that logic made sense.
Yeah.
And I
Smart.
clearly, what I was doing was not working. And so I had to have all the hard conversations, and I lined them up over 48 hours. I literally called every partner that I had with all the other businesses and said, I'm out, and you can have everything. And when I made that call, the people that were in my life were like, you worked for years to build these businesses, and like, what are you thinking? Like, why don't you sell them for more money? And
Because
I
that
just
went out
basically,
tomorrow,
yeah,
right?
because
Yeah.
exactly, because I fire sold it all. What was really interesting is that over the next 6 months, I made more money than I would have made from the sale of all those businesses put together, by just focusing on one thing, which is why I've been such an advocate of it. And I repeat that theme because the thing is that focus never gets easier. It's kind of like an addiction. Like, you have to beat it every day.
And tell me more about that. Focus never gets easier.
Yeah. Because the more skilled you become, the more aware of opportunities you become as well. And so you see more ways to make money, the more ways you know how to make money.
I see. And you find that to be potentially distracting from what you're currently
And it
doing.
never stops.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, just picture this for a moment. Like, imagine you have 1 million people who are a captive audience of yours who love your stuff.
Mhm.
How many different businesses could you start?
This is the problem that I run into every single day. And people go, "Oh, you're leaving money on the table." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm glad you realize that, because I'm doing it on purpose."
Yeah.
I don't want to write 3 books and have a merch line and run my own network, because right now I read books and talk to smart people and I get a fat check because of it. You're telling me to do less of the thing that I like that makes all of the money and then print t-shirts? Why is that a good idea? And nobody can really come up with a good reason other than they get a cut of that particular business because that's what they do or whatever. And I think leaving money on the table is actually a brilliant plan for most people, especially when, like you said, I never thought about it, that focus never gets easier, but you're right. You start to go, oh yeah, I do have this audience. I could sell them this, I could sell them this, I could sell them this, I could sell them this. And somebody will go, what if you had to do only 15% of the work for that particular thing? And one, that's always a lie. And two, that's always a shitload of work. It's actually a ton of work, 15%. So it's not just like an extra hour a week. It's like an extra 15 hours that month or that week, potentially, depending on how screwed up that business gets due to you not focusing on it the whole time. I feel like you can probably relate to that. So get used to leaving money on the table, I think is pretty much fair. I wonder if there's anything you still suck at, no matter how much time or money you throw at it.
I think focus is still the thing that I have to beat every day. It's very hard. It's extremely hard.
Yeah.
Because also to the same degree, like when we have more resources, I have a ton of very smart people who work, at acquisition.com. We have good amounts of capital that we can put to work to pursue any opportunity. And so I just have to be even more selective about the things that are worth doing. And so if something has a $100 million cap, I'm just not interested, right? It's like, even a $1 billion idea, it's like, I want something that has a $10 billion, potential minimum in order for me to be like, all right, let's literally say no to everything else besides this one thing. And so, and then once you say yes to it, it's committing. It means eliminating the alternatives. Like, you get married to the idea. And I use that term because when you get married, you eliminate all the alternatives. There's no other person you're going to be with. That's the point. And that also means that if someone, what appears to be better, comes along, it means you stick with your original commitment. And typically, though, I'll say this as, my 2 cents on that, is that when that better person comes along, it's very rare that they're actually better. It's just that you don't know all the bad stuff yet, because
of course,
because it's early and it's new. Right. And so
applies to business, applies to dating.
Yeah. Like, the grass is always greener on the other side, but it's also because it's fertilized with shit. And so it's just remembering that. And so I would say that this last year was the first year in my career that I realized that I didn't feel FOMO. And so that was like a very huge accomplishment for me. Because I would say for the first more than decade of my career, if someone was making, someone came to me and said, hey, I did this thing and it made a bunch of money, I immediately was like, I need to stop doing this. I start doing that. Or I was like, man, his thing's easier, mine's not, mine's harder. This is so dumb of me.
I can relate, yeah.
And I would say that at this point, if someone comes to me and they just did a monster deal or something, my immediate thought, and this is what has changed, is I'm like, that's amazing, and I know nothing about that. And I've spent this much time learning about this thing, and you spent this much time learning about that thing. And for me to catch up to where you're at, I have to spend the same, 13, 14 years you did learning this one thing. But here's the part we have to compare it against. Let's say you're 13 years into one career path. Well, if you're younger, say you're 2 years into a career path. You have to start at 2 years behind on this other thing, because you have to compare year 4 of your current thing to year 2 of the other thing.
Yeah, interesting.
Not year 2 of the other thing to where you're currently at now. Because we have to take into account, like, we're also going to get better. And the longer you do something, the better you get. And the more that the incremental benefit accrues to an outsized return. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you're a runner, just for simplicity's sake. The difference between first place and second place is almost nothing. It's a 1/10 of a second, right? But the difference between first place and second place in terms of real world is everything. And so the same thing happens when it comes to skills. If you're the absolute best marketer in the marketplace, you will, the vast majority, the lion's share of the returns will go to number 1. And so if you're on this path and you're like, okay, well, now I'm top 10%, it's like, that's great. Do you want to start at 0 again? Because the thing is going from 10% to 5% might only be a 5% absolute difference, but might be a triple in your income. And so that's the piece that, like, they're like, man, I've made all this progress to get to here and I'm not making as much as I want. It's like, yeah, but all the fruit is at the end.
Yeah.
And that's why sticking with the pick is so important.
Yeah, I think that's smart. What have you ever heard of the concept of skill stacking, where it's like, all right, I'm never gonna